So we talk about how much you need sacrifices, patience, consistency, persistence to make it, right? When you're starting to build a company. The problem is millennials and Gen Z, they're impatient as fuck. Because we live in a world where we have everything at our fingertips, right? Coffee, food, dates, porn, anything we want just at the click of a button. But the really good things in life, a career, a relationship, a business, good health, wealth, they all come from daily compounding, right? Of small actions. What's your message to our impatient generation today if they want to be truly successful tomorrow?
Be impatient towards the good things. Be impatient towards doing the good things every single day. Be impatient towards waking up and going to the gym. Be impatient to get on your sales calls and close those clients. Be impatient to pick up that book and read. Instead of being impatient about the results, be impatient about the input, because you can't control the output. You can control how many seeds you plant. You can't figure out which seed is going to grow and how many apples are going to come from that apple tree. You can't control that. You can't control the day you're going to become a millionaire. If you say, I'm going to become a millionaire in 1 year, good luck, motherfucker, because if that year rolls around and you're not a millionaire, you're going to feel like shit. You're going to feel unsuccessful. But if you're like, my success is determined by my input and not my output, dude, be impatient as a motherfucker, getting that input, grinding, understanding that money, success is a lagging indicator. So hustle, do what you have to do on the input, and then let by natural law, which is a principle that applies to the universe, right? Action causes reaction, input causes output. Focus on what you can control, be impatient about becoming great, and the rest will play out.
It's essentially what Gary Vee says when he says micro speed, macro patience. It's exactly that.
That's very good.
I'm Swiss. In Switzerland, we don't talk about money. We don't even know or dare to ask our parents how much they make.
Really?
You don't do that, no?
Wow.
That's how much taboo the topic of money is in Switzerland. At least, might have changed now, but I mean, I'm not old, but like, you know, I don't know how much my father makes or how much he made. Like, and you don't ask that, right? You talk a lot about money, and there is a lot of hate towards men who preach about making money. Why do you think openly talking about money and about making money is so important?
Because money is just a tool. So I talk about money just like I talk about health, just like I talk about self-development and picking up a book and learning topics that you enjoy. Money's just a tool. Money's just a weapon that you utilize to accomplish your goals, but it's essential. And most people have no literacy when it comes to money. I was doing some research as to how the Bible was translated into English. When John Wycliffe, began translating the Bible, he was persecuted. He was persecuted by the clergymen that had the Bible in Latin, and he was persecuted by the Pope, and he was persecuted by the religious political powers. Why? Because at that time, religion was the language of the elite. And it's what kept people in slavery. It's what kept people in bondage and in fear. Today, now that, you know, these spiritual texts have been translated and anybody can digest them, the tool of suppression is no longer religion, it's finance. So finance has now become the language of the elite. There's a reason the tax code is so complicated. There's a reason why they don't teach you money in school. There's a reason why these things are complicated. And it's not because they have to be complicated. It's because they're designed to keep you away from understanding that there are valuable parts of life that you need to master. So when you understand that language is also correlated to your ability to understand, what my goal is to simplify these concepts so that people don't fear them and that they can understand them in a very basic way so that they don't have to depend on a tax accountant, so that they don't have to depend on somebody to tell them how to make money.
A banker.
Exactly.
That takes massive
they're all the middlemen. They're all the middlemen to God. In God we trust.
Absolutely.
But go through me, motherfucker. That's what they tell you. That's
a really compelling one, because I'm in the banking sector. It's, if you start to, for me, like the journey was since I was probably 21 or 22 when I started the first company. I wanted to retire before 30, right? Whatever that means, a certain number. So I was like, how do I retire before 30? And then we had some employees and we had, a pension, because you have to invest in a pension for your employees. So I was like, how do I, with my pension and with other people's pension, invest this money to retire as quickly as possible? And then you start from there to understand how the entire system is made, that every pension,
it's fucked.
I mean,
bro.
in the UK, you have this self-investment pension plan, SIPP,
I know,
right?
the government invested on your behalf.
So
fucked,
then you
bro.
understand the whole thing, which is you're like, okay, how do I start? I'm going to start about reading about timeless principle of investing. There's not that, they all say the same, right? The little common sense of investing, a bunch of these books. Also, Tony Robbins, he wrote a really good one, which is Money Master the Game and Unshakable, and very simple ones after the great financial crisis to help millennials invest and to make them understand that it's actually not hard. It's just made harder by the ones who need to take a fees, right? And so
you need the middleman to God.
Exactly.
And the person that can be the middleman to God will charge you, in order to get to heaven. And when you realize that you don't need a middleman in order to talk to God, and you don't need a middleman in order to learn finance, and you don't need a middleman in order to do anything, the middleman gets upset. And now the middleman not only controls finance, but they also control the school system, because they're the ones that fund the school system, and they're the ones that fund the universities, and they're the ones that fund pharma, and they're the ones that fund food. So now the entire narrative is controlled by this centralized group of people. That's why I call individuals nowadays no longer peasants. They're fiat slaves, because you're slave to something that was created imaginarily by another person that controls you and is expending your life force energy and putting a little $ carrot in front of you, dingling and saying, by the age of 65, you'll be able to retire and you'll be happy, but give me 40 years of your life. It's fucked. So if I can, in some way, shape, or form, kind of at least trigger these conversations for people and be like, maybe let me look at the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. Maybe let me figure out why we got off the gold standard and who was actually involved in this process. Let me figure out why Satoshi's narrative of immutable money is actually compelling. And yeah, maybe I don't have to become a scholar when it comes to finances. Maybe I don't have to become somebody that actually understands the ins and outs of everything. But the last thing you want to be is ignorant, because in ignorance, you can get fooled. And most people are ignorant. And what I think sometimes people get upset at is the fact that you're showcasing their ignorance. And sometimes the truth hurts. But I'm willing to offend in order to save a few.
What do you think is the single biggest limiting factor that prevents most people from taking full control of their finance and their future?
Most people blame others. Most people fear the consequences of being responsible for the good things and the bad things of their life. I often tell people, everyone is self-made, but only the successful will admit it. Because the unsuccessful person, they're self-made, but they won't admit it. They'll blame somebody else. They'll blame the imaginary thumb of the government. They'll blame the race. They'll blame the color of their skin, but they'll never look at themselves and be like, what did you not do? Because everybody's quick to be like, oh, well, I am successful. I built this company. But what about when you fucked up? What about when you were inferior, when you were a loser? Did you take accountability for those things? And most people, I think, are just not comfortable with assuming that responsibility. So creating an ethos where we can be vulnerable, creating an ethos where it's okay to fuck up, where it's okay to fail, is going to revolutionize and change through authenticity how people interact and how people talk. And what I often tell people is this fear of failure is induced into us. It's not natural. If you go to the school system, bro, imagine how fucked it is to go to a first grader and give them an F and tell them you failed. Or you know what, because you didn't apply this, and this, you have to stay back with, younger kids and you shame them. Bro, that's fucking degrading. So from the beginning, you're conditioned to not try, because if you try, there's a chance that you're going to be penalized, and you don't want to be penalized. Nobody wants to be penalized. And then that translates to high school, that translates to university, that translates to the workplace, that translates to your interaction in your entire life. You just want to play it safe. And in that safety, it's all elusive, because at the end of the day, you're going to die. So we all end up being in the same situation because we all are going to end up dead. So there isn't any safety because we're all going to end up 6 feet under. So if you're going to end up 6 feet under, there's nothing to stress about. There's nothing to worry.
Yeah. I think it's called equanimity, no?
Equanimity.
That's it, right? With the concept of like, don't look at the tree, look at the forest, right? Take a step back and then realize, man, why are we even stressing? I mean, easier said than done, right? But
it can't even be said, and it can't be done. It needs to be felt. And the equanimity is the calmness of the soul. Equanimity means the calmness of the soul. So when you, like Miyamoto Musashi famously said, with your spirit as high as Mount Fuji, you will see all things clearly. And when you can elevate your perspective and you can see that what people are doing, what people think about you, your failures and your wins, they're insignificant.
No
when
one
you
gives
can
a
see
fuck.
it, nobody cares.
But before that, you need to go through the big failures and realize that nothing happened.
Yes.
Which most people will not go through because they're scared.
Yes.
And you're saying that one of the reason, or the main reason they're scared, is the education system, where from young, also early on, it's basically black or white, right? It's failure or success.
Winner. Gold star or red marker with an F.
Would you go as far as saying that, let's go into the education one because it's a very interesting one.
The education system was created by the Rockefeller Foundation under the Prussian school system, which was the idea of creating factory working bots that don't question, they don't do anything except obey. That's why the school system resembles the industrial era. You raise your hand in order to use the bathroom. There's an assembly line. The bell rings. Therefore, that's your break. That's your cue. You have to be operating just within your little dynamic. You can't explore. You're not supposed to collaborate. You're within your little area of work. This is what you do. But it not only resembles the industrial kind of era, but it also resembles the prison complex. Right? So you have the fluorescent lights, you have the locked rooms, you walk in a line, you go to the yard 1 hour of the day, and you only do it when the bell rings. Dude, can I just, when everybody clips it, all you have to do is look at what a cafeteria looks like in the United States school and look at a cafeteria prison. They look the same. So everything is conditioned from the moment you're young to absolutely create and prune you into being a fiat slave.
Which we all follow, right? We even getting out of this mindset of, and again, my Swiss side will be like, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to be like, it's not only about being an entrepreneur, right? You can be a consultant and be happy. You can be
you can even be an employee. It's not even about that. It's about understanding that what you've been conditioned to believe is a bullshit. What you've been conditioned to feel about reality, what you've been conditioned to understand is true, is not true, and that the systems, the beliefs that you've been given are not yours, and that you're not bound and limited to these things in order to become an individual that achieves greatness. Greatness isn't what Luke Belmar tells you greatness is. Success isn't what Luke Belmar tells you success is. What is your symphony of success? When you hear success, right, what does that mean to you? What does that look like for you? It looks different for you. It looks different for me. But pursue that path. Most people know, hey, I want to pursue something. I want to become somebody. But then because of the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of insecurities, and shame on all these motherfuckers online that talk shit, because the last thing you want to be doing is criticizing and insulting somebody for trying.
Absolutely.
When we're all just trying to make it. So why are you trying to hold the brother down? You know what I mean?
What about
crazy?
What about your parents?